Alright, so we're gonna make a loaf of sourdough, and it's really not that hard and it's really not that crazy. And I got this recipe from a creator on here called Miranda TVH, I think. But there's not food scales, not a bunch of crazy shit, not 25,000 stretch and folds, none of that. So what we're gonna do, so I actually fed my starter yesterday because I was gonna make a bunch of stuff, and then that didn't end up happening because life and kids and you know, all the things. So anywho, so we're just gonna do, this is unfed starter, so it's gonna be runnier versus if you had fed starter. It is obviously gonna be thicker. There's a lot of debate on whether it matters or not. I watch a bunch of people do experiments. Obviously, once you add all the flour, you're gonna feed your starter. So a lot of people say they don't notice a difference. Technically, you're supposed to do it at peak bloom, so when it's like the puffiest of the puffy. So it's just gonna be 1 cup of starter, 1 cup of lukewarm water, so you don't want it to be like super hot. If you don't want to waste the time, you can just do room temperature, but it helps it fluff up a little bit if it's a little warm. And then you're just going to use a whisk. This is one that came with my sourdough banneton. I don't really give a shit. You don't have to use a special bread sourdough whisk if you don't want to. All right. And then we're going to do 3 cups of, you can use unbleached flour if you want, like all-purpose flour, but I like bread flour. Seems to work the best. Alright, I'm gonna put 3 cups of flour in here. Alright, so I have all my flour in here, and then you're gonna do like 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt. That was not that bad. I'm just gonna eyeball it because again, I'm lazy and I don't feel like doing it, and that's part of the beauty of this recipe is that you don't have to do that. So obviously everything is very separated. So I usually just kind of mix it and spill the flour everywhere. Once it kind of starts getting hard to mix it with the whisk, then I just go in with my hand until it forms a smooth ball. So you can see right now it's kind of like a shaggy dough, so I'm going to stop using the whisk and I'm just going to go in with my hand until I get a nice smooth ball. Alright, so your dough should come together and be pretty smooth. Obviously it doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of people will go ahead and put in a banneton. I just plop that bitch right back in the bowl, and I go ahead and cover it just with a shower cap. And then just put it in the warmest place of your house. You're looking for doubling in size. So sometimes I'll take a picture of it, especially if I'm not going to be home and like looking at it and stuff. I usually put it in my microwave, especially because a lot of times I heat the water up in the microwave so it's more warm. Other people will put it in their oven, turn the light on, whatever tickles your fancy, somewhere warm, or you can be extra bougie and get a sourdough warming mat. But anyway, so it'll take anywhere from 3 to 7 hours depending on how warm your house is. Usually about an hour or 2 in, I'll do 1 stretch and fold, and that's it. So okay, we'll be back. All right, so we've been sitting in the microwave for about 4 hours. I did do 1 stretch and fold that I forgot to record. And so you can see we're about double what we were. She got a pretty fat ass right now. Alright, so we're gonna take our bread out of here. And I know normally they say let it like fall out of the bowl naturally. It just like takes too long and it's freaking late. So just gonna use my little sourdough scraper guy here. Alright. And I'm gonna put a little bit of flour down. Let's see if you can see this a little better. A little bit of flour down. You don't normally use a cutting board, but I've got jelly everywhere. So, all right, so this, we're trying to create some tension here. And we're also trying to get some of these air bubbles out, that way you don't end up with big, giant buttholes in your bread. So, not that we're doing stretch and folds right now, but how you would do it is you would literally just like stretch it out, fold it in, stretch it out, fold it in. It helps form those glutinous bonds or whatever. Alright, so this board is definitely gonna move, which is what I normally like to do it on the counter. But essentially, you're gonna roll your dough, and then as you draw it back towards you, you're gonna like tuck it in, and it increases that surface tension, which is what we're looking for. So down you go. Sorry, girl. So I don't like cutting boards. So I'm just gonna kind of do this. All right. So we created some surface tension. So see how she looks kind of gross right there? So we're essentially gonna just like pull it together. And they call this stitching. You gotta stitch it up. When you get a vaginus, you gotta stitch it up. All right, great. And then you're gonna do vagina side down into this basket. It's called a banneton. You can literally just use a basket or a bowl or whatever. So I put a paper towel in here with a little bit of the flour. So we're just gonna put her vagina side down. We're gonna put our shower cap back over her, and then we're gonna let her hang out in the fridge overnight to proof. Do a cold proof, because the fridge is cold, you got it. And then we're gonna bake it in the morning. Stand by. All right, so this is cold proofed all night. It's obviously the next day, nice and bouncy. She got a nice fat donk. All right, so we're gonna turn around some parchment. And I just ball my parchment up. That way you're not fighting the parchment the whole time. We're just gonna turn it over. And then kind of that extra flour, just kind of just rub her down. And you can use whatever tool you want. You can use a sharp knife or a razor like this. Whatever floats your boat. I just got this in the little kit thing that I got. So you just need to cut a vent in some way, and obviously you can make it as pretty as you want. So I usually do a pretty big one, and you can go pretty deep with these. It's definitely much harder to do this one-handed. And then you can do some cute little wheat design or something. And I go ahead and put my Dutch oven in there as I'm preheating it so that it's nice and toasty and ready to go. So 450 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so now we're in our preheated Dutch oven, and I like to stick a couple ice cubes in on the outside, not on top. That would be nice. And then we're gonna put her in at 450 for about 20 minutes. All right, it's been 20 minutes. Let's see what she looks like. Gorgeous, beautiful, we love it. So we're gonna cook her for about another 15 minutes without the lid, and so she gets nice and brown. And she turned out quite beautiful. Honestly, we could probably leave her in there for another 10 minutes or so. And then I'm gonna move her to a wire rack to let her cool. And always remember to a sourdough, even though it is very tempting to cut into her because she's nice and warm and crunchy. Don't do it. Let it wait for at least an hour, otherwise you're gonna cut into it and the middle is gonna be all gooey and gross, and you're not gonna want any of that, so just wait. I hope you make a sourdough loaf. Let me know if you do. And just remember, when you're off duty, have fun. All right, let's go ahead and cut into this bad mamma jamma so that I don't cut my silicone mat. So nice and airy. Lots of people smush it. I don't fucking know. So